we want to go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, my name is Andrea Schaben. I would like to start the meeting by having all of you in the chat put your name, role, and what about this presentation interested you? And what is it you hope to learn by attending this? So if we could start there, that way I can tailor what I talk about to your specific needs. So if you could go ahead and put that in the chat, I'll go ahead and write that for anyone who um, is coming in late. So name, role, and what about the talk interested you? Perfect. Thank you, Amanda. Because I have dual roles. I'm a faculty at Yavapai College, but I also work with the grant, work with the former rural, well, it's still the rural textbooks grant for Arizona, but and I'm the co-coordinator of that. So I can speak from more of a broad perspective, or I can speak more to faculty. So I will I will maybe speak to both because as I'm seeing people put things in the chat, I think perhaps that addressing both would be helpful. But I'm math faculty, so some of the things that I will be talking about today will be more tailored towards, I guess, how I built our math program to nearly 100% OER materials in about 7 years. So yeah, I'll speak. And when I talk about resources and how we scaled, some of that will be math specific, and I'll talk about programs that work math specific. But yeah, okay. So got a couple of people that responded. I'll wait for maybe one or two folks to put name, role, and what about the talk interested them, and then I'll go ahead and start my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Move that chat over there so I can see it. All right, so my name again is Andrea Schaben. I am mathematics faculty at Yavapai College. I was the department chair for the past 5 years. And so this is my story on how I started my OER build and then how I scaled it to full implementation. We have only one course, differential equations, right now that is not using open educational resources. Okay, excellent. I love it. Okay. So thank you for sharing all of that. So here's my agenda. Won't spend much time on this slide. Obviously, there's some challenges to building and scaling OER. I want to talk about those challenges. I want to talk about the pedagogical advantages to using OER materials, the impact that we've made on students, and then some strategies that you can use to replicate and build your own OER network, either at your school or in the case of OER Arizona, throughout the state. All right, so here are some of those challenges to adopting OER. The first is people are scared of what they don't know. And so one of my initial challenges, especially in the scaling portion of it, was to get people to buy in. And if you've never used the product before, then that can be scary. Or if you've used the Pearson is our math product. If you used Pearson for 10 years, it's hard to change and it's hard to get people to buy in. And the second piece was how to find the resources that we wanted to use. Mostly I went to conferences. I used the librarians a little bit, but most of it was just research and learning from other people. As a teacher, you always just borrow and steal, right? Technical issues, and I'm going to talk more to that more specifically with math, just how we have dealt with the technical issues and how that drove some of the changes, or excuse me, the choices that we made. And then lastly, how do we sustain the use of free resources when there is little to no support sometimes with those free resources. All right, next. So this is the broad big picture. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because it sounds like more people are interested in getting in the weeds on how to get started. So, but these are some things that I definitely want you to keep in mind as you are trying to build out your network. Some of the things that really helped us was, first of all, starting with an OER committee. Before I built my first OER course, I was part of our college-wide OER committee. That was a very valuable resource for me. Simply administrative support. We have a teaching and e-learning support specialist on that committee. It was really important that you have a college-wide support system, and that OER committee was that for us. We ended up coding our OER courses into banners so that the student-facing part of our registration system showed which courses were free for textbooks and which ones weren't. That was really important for us in data collection, as well as how we got students to sign up. OER faculty training, we have that offered through our teaching and e-learning support. Again, super important, especially as you're onboarding adjuncts, to have a training module that's outside of your department. Helps them then kind of see the overview part of OER, and then you as a department can jump in and help with the stuff that's more in the weeds, like how do I manage the particular learning management system, or how do I manage my ours are called OHM, Online Homework Manager. How does all that work? So it's nice for us to have our TELs, or teaching and e-learning, do our faculty training. And then our last part was on the build. We had a handbook and a memorandum, MOU, I think it's memorandum of understanding. Anyway, it's a memo basically that says we will pay you X amount of dollars for your build. It fits into this tier, and we want you to have this done by this date. It helped us stay organized. It helped us figure out what we wanted to fund and what we needed to prioritize. And a lot of that was just based on enrollments. All right, so now the weeds. As a math department chair, the first thing that I did, of course, was research. And I went to our Mathematic conference, which is our statewide mathematics for two-year institutions conference, and started gathering ideas, started looking at different products, went to all those tables that support or sponsor, and just looked at some different options for us for building OER courses. And the first OER course that I built, we don't use that platform anymore. So that's why I said, just get started and then you can make adjustments as you go. The first platform we used was great for what we needed it for. They worked with us. We got a 1-year free trial from them. So it was absolutely beneficial. And I would definitely say, don't spend too much time making decisions. Like, just make the decision, jump in, and then as you're looking at scaling, then you can start getting more into the weeds of what works and what does not work. And I'll talk about that first product that we ended up scrapping in a minute, and it was all about scalability. And then the last portion, which is the most important, is don't try to go it alone. Find an accountability partner. Those first conferences that I went to gather information, one of my colleagues, he was at those conferences with me. We did our first build together. We decided on the product together. We decided on how the course was going to look together. And so it really gave me a more broad overview. And then it also gave me that accountability partner, so that this needs to be done by X day. And it was much easier to stick to those timelines when you have a partner. Okay. Getting started, my pitch. So this is what I went to the department with after doing that first trial run with an OER course on my own. So I ran the first course with the help of my accountability partner that first semester, but kind of outside of the department. And then after I had run the course, and the initial product we used was Derivata, so it wasn't free. It was actually a $30 fee, but we used the OpenStax textbook um, to build the material. So it was OER adjacent, and like I'm going to tell you, we moved to OER after making some decisions. But so this is what I went to my department with. The biggest advantage of using OER in my mind is pedagogical. It's not the cost savings. I was able to create the course that I wanted within the learning objectives of what we needed to meet for the statewide transfer requirements. We did a lot of project-based learning, and in the previous Pearson iterations, it was more difficult to do that because there was just no flexibility at all in the questions that we could assign or how the questions were worded. Everything was set. And there was no changing it. And so with Derivata, we basically sent them the questions we wanted them to code. They coded them for us. The other pedagogical advantages, they didn't give them the answer of the hint videos until they had tried the problem 3 times. So the students were less likely to use those crutches. And yeah, we built workbooks in lieu of a textbook so that students actually used the paper electronic version of the textbook in lieu of, a textbook that sits on the corner and gathers dust, which is what we were finding that our students were doing with their textbooks. And then the last piece, which is the scalability part, is we wanted consistency. We had used Pearson for years and we were all Pearson. So if a student took a math class, let's say in the developmental sequence, then the next step, everything looked the same as far as the program that they were using for homework. So I piloted that first product, and it was independent from Pearson. And so as we were talking about scaling, we definitely wanted everything to be the same. And that was really important so that we had consistency throughout our courses. But that's not only the homework system, that also needs to be in how we present material to students. So that was my other pitch. Let's make all of our math classes as similar as possible as far as the initial learning tools. And then whatever assessment tools you want to use, that's your choice. But the learning tools that we have, the videos, the notes, the guided workbooks, all of those things, they should be consistent so that students have the same learning tools from course to course. Okay, the other advantage is, of course, I grew up on a farm with basically little or no money, went to college on mostly FAFSA. And so it was really important for me because my students are the same way that I was growing up. Just don't have money to spend on a $150 textbook, and we need you to have it day 1, not day 14. So the cost savings was a huge, huge, huge piece for our students. And you can see here, total math enrollment this spring was $1,290. And so now from Pearson to now, we are saving $193,000 for students this spring, it does matter. Okay. All right. So year 2 and year 3 was all about implementation. And so basically, the first piece was administrative buy-in. Just like our students, we don't do optional. And so it was really important that we got paid for the work that we were planning on doing. And so the administrative support, we were fully funded through Yavapai College for the first couple of builds. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but it was enough to move the needle. And so that administrative buy-in was really important. Then we decided on what we wanted our base course to look like, and we agreed on that as a math department. And then we divided out the courses that we wanted to see built using our highest enrolled classes first. So the last courses we built are like Math 172, which is only for business. The Math for Elementary Teachers, one of the last things we built. Calc 3 was one of the last things we built. Differential equations isn't even built yet. So we started with Math 142, which is college math. We also added the with review, the co-requisite part, when we did the restructuring. And then we went to Math 152, then we went to the developmental sequence, and then we went to pre-calc. But we divided that out among our full-timers, and everyone picked a course during the pandemic to build because it was much easier to make videos during that time. And it was, let's go and build, build, build. And that was really how we were able to scale it using all of these pieces. Okay, year 4 and beyond. And I thought this was going to be more of a challenge than what it is. But when you have the pitch, like we're going to have pedagogical advantages with this. We're going to have flexibility with our homework questions. You can add, subtract, change. There's a whole bevy of homework questions. And then the piece that I forgot to talk about in year 2 and year 3 was choosing a product. So we went with derivative for the first build, but they were not, they did not have all of the courses existing already in their system. Everything kind of needed to be built from scratch. So then we moved to Lumen, which was a very good choice for us because they had everything. They had a like a skeleton course or, you know, a homework system basically built for each course. All we needed to do was ancillary materials and then some different options for assessments. And so Lumen was a great option for us to use to scale. And so we did start with Lumen. We are gradually trying to move things into MyOpenMath because Lumen is a $30 subscription fee. Our college covered it for the previous couple of years, but we are the amount of money that Lumen is asking us for is getting higher and higher. So we're moving to MyOpenMath. And the issues with MyOpenMath are that it is not supported with tech support where Lumen was supported with tech support. So we're moving things slowly, kind of seeing how it goes, because we did want the tech support for the sustainability portion. Super important that things are up, you know, kept up. And so that sustainability part was important. Let me talk a little bit about training and mentoring. This is definitely one of my non-negotiables. And like I said in the second one, I had to be willing to lead. So if someone wanted training, if somebody wanted any sort of help, then basically I jumped in. I've done co-builds with almost all of my fellow faculty here at Yavapai because to get somebody started from scratch is very scary. But if they have an accountability partner and someone who's already built, then it's much, much easier. And then once those two people have built, then it goes to 4 and rules of exponents. All of a sudden now you have 8 people who are willing to build. And so that was really important, especially with adjuncts. And I've met my adjuncts at any number of places. I met one of my adjuncts in a bar and showed her how to run the class. But yeah, it's just really important also with adjuncts that you give them one of the courses has already been built for the first cycle so that they see what these courses look like and some of the advantages to those courses. And then they're much more willing to jump in and say, okay, I'll use that course or maybe I'll even build. We've had 3 adjuncts build classes for us, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, and then I already talked about our implementation plan. It was important we had a product we could scale. And then also just to have those accountability partners as well as building people willing to jump in and build. So, and I'm almost done. I know I talk really fast, but I definitely wanted to talk about this piece because transitioning from Pearson to OER with less ancillary materials, we were concerned about whether it would affect student outcomes, and it did not. In fact, the most important statistic that we pulled from our data collection was that students that took 2 OER courses in the previous semester were more likely to sign up for they were likely to sign up for more courses in the subsequent semester than those that took non-OER classes. And we think it was the cost savings. Not having to pay for those textbooks for those previous semester courses allowed students to sign up for more courses in that next semester. And then, of course, we didn't want any higher failure rates, and none of that came to fruition. Our completion rate was great for our grant-funded courses. Students were able to start day one, which in their student evaluations, they really, really appreciated that. So, and then this is total cost savings for the entire duration of the project. And that's just a tentative number. And like I said, this is only from 2023. So obviously those numbers are much higher now in 2025. Okay, here are some resources that I've used to build. Obviously, Lumen is part of that list for me. There's a lot of really great tools to get started with on Lumen. It does have a cost associated with it, so it's not completely free. It's not completely OER, but they use textbooks that are OER, so it's OER adjacent. And I really find it to be super helpful. All right, I don't need to walk through that, I don't think, because I want to leave you guys some time to ask me some questions. And I will unshare my screen. And let me see. I thought mom was supported. Oh, okay, that's a great point. So Lumen has the difference between Lumen and MyOpenMath is quite literally not in the questions. It's in the maintenance of it. And so if we have an issue with Lumen, we have technical support to reach out to. If we have an issue with MyOpenMath, it's just a community share platform. So there is a difference between those two products. Cost is a difference, but then also maintenance is a difference. Now, we have not had issues that we couldn't fix with our problem sets from MyOpenMath. So sometimes it takes someone who knows just this much about coding to fix those issues. But yeah, it's been a pretty smooth transition. Anybody else have? Come on, please. Somebody ask some questions. I know I talked super fast. You guys have to be like my students and say, I missed what you said back at X. Oh no, go for it.
Okay, maybe people are curious to get conversations. With my open math, like as you're doing that transition, are you having any issues working with IT in terms of having to go through security for embedding it into your learning management system?
We have Canvas, and I don't know what kind of LMS you have, but there's a Canvas export package for every MyOpenMath shell. And so we've had no issues at all with moving them from MyOpenMath to Canvas. What learning management system do you have, though?
Oh, we're using D2L, so we know you can do that. We've used Luminome in some of our courses, but one of the challenges we had with doing a move to MyOpenMath was I was under the understanding that for larger institutions, and you're kind of falling in with like the enrollment size considered to be a little medium to larger,
Mm-hmm.
that they would force you over to Luminome instead of using MyOpenMath since they kind of host the platform for MyOpenMath on their back end.
Haven't heard
That
any.
hasn't come up? Okay.
Has not come up, but our enrollment is still about 50% Lumen and about 50% MyOpenMath. We moved Math 142, which is college math with review. It's by far and away our largest section numbers. That and pre-calc, we moved those to MyOpenMath. But everything else, I'm trying to think. Yeah,
Little curious on
50-50.
structurally, you've got faculty doing a lot of things. Like what kind of support are you getting from the college? Are they getting additional release time? Are you doing like faculty stipends and grants as
That's
a strategy
funny.
to get people to do the work?
No, I was given no release time at any point during any of this. However, we were given stipends for builds, and we have 3 stipend tiers. The first is a full build, which math doesn't qualify for a full build because there are resources for us to use to create our builds. So most of them are either semi builds, which don't quote me on this, but it's somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 for a semi build, which is where most of mine fell. But with the Lumen resources, it's mostly getting the in-person notes created and then going through the homework system and making sure that it aligns with what you want to emphasize and what your objectives are.
Good.
Yeah, the course builds are pretty good. My third build was intermediate algebra, and I thought the Lumen course for intermediate was almost spot on what I needed.
Yeah, that one's been around for a while.
Yep, sure has. Any other questions?
Yeah, we still have 5 minutes left, so if anybody has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute since we're not that big of a group.
If there aren't any other questions, one other piece I had on my agenda is I can show you the what's it called? I'll let you guys think while I think. The OER Commons Hub. I can show you some of the resources from there and what's already existing, but it would need to be math specific, and I don't think we're math specific. Okay, how do you keep the spirit of open for resources if it is in Canvas? I'm not sure I understand
So
the question.
what I've run across is when people are saying they're using OER resources is if they home develop it, it's locked behind their learning management system. So it's not truly open. What is the challenge I kind of give people as we're talking at PIMO to get support for platforms to provide our resources we build to actually be available outside of PIMO to
Yeah.
be considered open. Otherwise, it's just free resources for students internally.
Yeah, we shared the Canvas Commons. That was part of our MOU. And so it's really not under a paywall anymore, at least not for Canvas users. However, when we did our grant fund builds, at least in math, we put those on MyOpenMath. So on ancillary materials as well. So we may have hidden some of our project assessments just so that they weren't, out in the wide world. But we did keep the Canvas Commons as part of our sharing agreement with builders. So it's not really freely open, but it's getting close there.
Yeah, whenever I get a chance, I try to describe that because that's how we got at Pima our Pressbook license approved. So like the provost office was saying, we're doing stuff, but it's not OER because we're not openly sharing all the work that's hidden behind our Blackboard LMS system. I'm sorry, D2L LMS system.
So the same thing with Lumen, like it is behind a paywall, and so it's not really OER, which is why when we went to the grant required that it be not just shared on the Canvas Commons, but shared to the whole wide world. And so that's one of the reasons why we shifted to MyOpenMath with some of our later builds when it was being grant funded and not internally funded. Yeah, our original pitch to administration was to save students money. I mean, that's basically
get your foot in the door.
Yeah, that basically gets your foot in the door. But then the pedagogical advantages far outweighed the any of the cost saving advantages, at least from a teaching perspective, because we've gone to building thinking classrooms, so all of our learning materials could be flexible, Desmos activities. None of those things lived nicely inside of a Pearson shell. So this really gave us a lot more flexibility in building the way that we give students learning tools. Desmos was a big free resource too that really changed the trajectory of how much we could save students and how easy it could be for students. So I have time for one more. Anybody else have a question for me? My librarians are here. Hey, guys. You guys have any questions or just came here to support me? Appreciate it. Yeah, and with the last minute, I'll talk about it, what our librarians are doing. And they're building now a list of resources, not only textbook resources, but also they've asked us YouTube resources and, you know, maybe Khan Academy. What are some other things that we can give to students as part of our OER initiative that are free but can help students as learning tools? So thank you, Alexis. Appreciate all of you guys coming here. And my contact information is on the slide deck, which they shared in the chat. So please contact me, andrea.schaben@ycdf.edu. I'd love to help if there's anything that you need.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was great. And yeah, we have a 5-minute break until the next session. So, and everything's in Huva. So feel free to look and see where you're going next.
Thanks, guys.